Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube channel, and it's Saturday night, so we all know what that means. It's time for more Trek, and it's our last Voyager two-parter before we move on to Deep Space Nine. And also, coincidentally enough, it's the season finale or series finale of Voyager. And it's my usual guests are with me. Skep is here. Hammer and Polly are running late, but I'm sure they'll join us. So, how are you, Skep?
Oh, I'm doing fine. It was nice to finally watch one of these for this stream. It was a show that I didn't pan completely. I truly enjoyed Endgame.
Yes.
I thought it was very well done. It's basically, to me, a treatment of the time honored time paradox thing, and it has the twist of Janeway visiting and naturally coming into conflict with her earlier self, and actually outranking her earlier self. That she comes back as an admiral and attempts to tell Janeway what to do. I mean, you can give the synopsis of what's about here in a minute.
Yeah.
But anyway, and they did a pretty good job of how to do it. I've got some thoughts about that paradox in general, and the way that they chose to, some choices that they made that I thought were good choices. But why don't you give us a rundown of what the episode was about?
So Endgame is, as I mentioned, the series finale, and it's a great two-part episode. And it basically looks at, it kind of forces time travel in a very interesting way. It makes us look at, what could have happened if Voyager took the long way home, or what could happen if Voyager took a shortcut and got home in 7 years instead of, I think Admiral Janeway said something like 25 or 30 years, something like that. And it basically you do very interesting shifts between, I guess you would call it, present Voyager and future Earth, at least in the first part of this two-parter. And basically this two-parter shows the intertwining between future and present, and Admiral Janeway ends up helping the crew of Voyager get home. And I think they did, like Skep said, they did a really good job with the way that they intermixed it, because when the episode, the first part of the episode starts, you've got all these fireworks, and it's like the anniversary of Voyager's homecoming, and you're like, whoa, wait, what? Right? You're like, the 15th anniversary of Voyager's homecoming.
Yeah, well, you have to, and that, interesting, because we all know that I'm the noob on the block when it comes to Voyager.
Yeah.
And so this was actually the first time that I've watched this, and this is probably an old and favorite, episode of yours and Dallas, Hammer, and Polydub. But the way that this is set up, it's like 2404. This Federation is celebrating the 10th anniversary of Voyager's return to Earth from 23 years in the Delta Quadrant. So in that future, where Admiral Janeway is, the Voyager has spent 23 years in the Delta Quadrant and finally gets home. So the older Admiral Catherine Janeway acquires this chrono deflector from a Klingon named Korath, and uses it on her shuttle to travel back in time to 2378 in the Delta Quadrant. Okay, yeah. And so she finds her younger self. They're on the bridge, and she gets Voyager to emit an anti-tachyon pulse that collapses the temporal distortion and prevents the Klingons who want to get their device back, right,
yeah,
from following her through. So she basically shuts the hatch behind her.
Yeah.
And so she's back aboard her old starship. And so you have this really cosmic conversation between old Admiral Janeway and her younger self. And she says, you need to return to this nebula that is actually absolutely chock full of Borg, right?
Yeah.
And Captain Janeway says, no.
No. Yeah.
And she says, no. I've got new tech. And this new tech will allow you to slip in there and you can pass by the Borg defenses and you can get to this thing called the transwarp corridor. You know, am I right so far?
Yep.
Okay. So, you know, the Borg are not able to penetrate the Voyager's new adaptive hull armor, you know, and they can't capture it with tractor beams because there's like special WD-40 or whatever that they put on the outside, and you know, from the future WD-40. So Voyager destroys 2 Borg cubes with these things called transphasic torpedoes,
which are fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, God,
like the shout out to the future Delta Flyer. Holy fuck, man!
Oh hell yeah! When you see those Borg cubes blow up, you just get out of your chair and yell, "Hell
yes!
Yeah!"
You're like, yes!
A wonderful thing. So anyway, Voyager then gets to this transwarp hub thing. Okay, and transit through the hub will save the ship 16 years of being stranded in the Delta Quadrant. Plus, it alters the timeline for some of the crew members. Yeah. And among those is that 7 of 9 gets killed 3 years into this other timeline where they spend all the time in the Delta Quadrant. And actually 22 of the crew members, she loses 22 of the crew members if they stay on that timeline.
Yeah.
And Chakotay never recovers. You know, he has a romantic thing with 7 of 9. He never recovers. And Tuvok goes dies. Crazy because he's got this
Van Dyke syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. And that, you know, the only thing that can cure him is if he gets home pronto and gets to a qualifying Vulcan, basically a member of his family, and does this mind meld thing that will cure him of this disease. Am I right so far?
Absolutely right.
So anyway, the 2 Janeways argue over back and forth until the elder Janeway tells her younger self basically, you know, about the 7 and 9, the 22 other crew members, and that will happen if they don't take the transwarp conduit home, you know, and that Vulcan tactical officer Tuvok, it will become mentally unstable from this bug that's in him. All right. And so, you know, Janeway is just like sick with this knowledge. You know, you can really see the pressure of command. And I thought they did an excellent job of that. That is what command pressure looks like. That was real to me.
And honestly, for a few minutes, you kind of hate Admiral Janeway.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
You're like, you manipulative cunt.
Right.
What is the matter with you?
Yeah, utterly cynical. Utterly cynical, right?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, they decide that destroying the Borg's transwarp hub is more important than returning to Earth. So the whole crew is like, you know, it's the journey. It's not the destination. So let's do this thing. We all die, but we die doing a good thing and save millions and millions of lives. That's the right thing to do. We'd rather be dead heroes than live, you know,
cowards,
you know, live retired people.
Well, and can I just say how brilliant of a writing choice it was to have Harry deliver that line? Yes, the one who wanted to go home the most.
Absolutely. It just was. You could almost see the, you know, it was growth. That's called a character arc. That's real writing right there. So anyway, yeah, I know I'm kind of bubbling about it, but I really was psyched up.
It's a great episode. It's a great, like, it's a great story.
You're getting to the scene I loved. Okay?
Oh yeah, which one is that?
She takes her shuttlecraft and enters this transwarp hub thing, and she gets to the Unicomplex.
Yes,
the center of all Borg activity and the home of the Borg Queen.
Yes.
And the Borg Queen is there, and she's got the little light on her head that flashes, you know, and the wires coming out of her. And Janeway, you know, appears in the Queen's mind, okay, through the synaptic interface. She's actually still on her shuttlecraft.
Yeah.
And so the Borg Queen actually tries to assimilate her, and assimilates nothing but air because she's not really there. And so the Borg Queen goes, "You fooled me. Huh? This isn't good.
Yeah.
This isn't good at all."
No, yeah, I know. Right? And you I like the back and forth because she at first she's like, "Oh fuck,"
yeah,
and then she finds her and goes, "Ha ha ha."
yes, and then, but what has happened is in the course of all this, Janeway has sacrificed herself. Admiral Janeway has sacrificed herself to infect the Borg with a virus.
Yeah.
Okay, and the virus is just spreading like wildfire, going all through all parts of the Borg, and I had this, because what happens, it manifests itself on the Borg Queen as her limbs are starting to fall off. Like when her left arm starts going crazy, so she takes her right arm and rips off her left arm and throws it away. And I got to thinking about the Monty Python thing where the
night,
the Black
Knight.
The Black Knight. Exactly. He cuts off his arm. Come back here, you coward. And pretty soon, the next thing that happens is she loses a leg. So she's standing on one leg and has an arm, and she's sparking. And eventually she goes down. This thing kills her, and she basically says to Janeway, "You'll never get away with this." And then the Borg Queen dies, and you see the Borg Queen die. Janeway sees the Borg Queen die before she herself expires.
Yeah.
And of course, the big cube goes, and that's and then the finale is, heads back to the reality that is on the Captain Janeway's ship on Voyager, and what they have to do is they're being pursued, and they have to bail and go back into the Delta Quadrant.
Yeah.
So that was.
But when they bail into the Delta Quadrant, they actually
are greeted by a fleet of Starfleet vessels that had arrived to fight the Borg.
Yep.
Settling down in her chair, just Captain Janeway looks around and kind of says, "Well, set course for home.
Next time we'll call ahead."
Yeah, exactly. Next time I'll order pizza. It was great. So. They have finally returned home after spending 7 years in the Delta Quadrant.
But and as I said last week for the teaser part of this, as I said, like, it's an episode that I love, but I also don't like it because it means it's over, and it's such a good episode that you're like, but just like one more. Like, can I just have one more Voyager episode? Like, especially when Kim gives that speech, you're like,
yes.
Oh, please let them not make it.
Yes. Yep.
Hey, Polly.
Hello.
Hey.
I was just saying that this Endgame is such a great episode because you love it for the story, but you also don't like it because it means the series is over, and it's such a good episode that you're just like, but I just want one more episode. Especially when Kim gives that speech about, like, maybe it's the journey that's important, and we're a family now, and this is our home, and you're like, I've never actually wanted Voyager not to make it before.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on this episode? Because Skep and I both really like it.
Yeah, I really like it too. It's overall, I thought it was a good way to end the series and not just end the series in a big way, as opposed to just one last story. Like, TOS ends with Turnabout Intruder, so it doesn't really have a finale episode, so to speak. It just has a last episode.
This was a capstone.
Yeah, and Voyager is a pretty. It has a pretty obvious final episode. Like, the whole point of the show is them getting home. Yes. So, do they get home or not? Yeah. That becomes the question. So to do it with like time travel and stuff and so forth, interesting. The thing that I have to say that I don't like the most about it is, like, it's, Endgame, the story of two bitchy Janeways.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, they're both just awful in this whole episode. I want to slap them both. Like,
hey, Hammer.
Hello.
Hey, Hammer.
I was saying to Skep that for a few minutes there in the first part of this two-parter, when Admiral Janeway says, fuck it, I'm gonna break the temporal prime directive and I'm gonna tell you everything. You hate her for those. You're like, you manipulative bitch. What is the matter with you? Just
okay, like I don't there's one thing that I don't buy is like, in the center of that nebula is a wormhole to get you home.
Yeah.
And they went, oh, okay. They didn't ask her anything more. How do you know? Details, something. Why would the Borg Queen be interested in us not going in there? To the point where they get inside and it's like, oh my god, it's a subspace transwarp hub. Like I just don't buy that she would have been able to get them to go in there without telling them something more than the road home's that way.
Yeah. Are you using your computers, Mike?
Oh yeah, I think I accidentally am. Hold on.
You sound a little echoey.
You sound a little bit reverb.
There's no bottom end either.
Yeah, no bottom at all.
Sure, look, I am. Okay.
One of the interesting things about this and any time travel sequence, especially where events that take place could influence the future, is that, okay, so Janeway of the future comes back and influences Janeway of the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Janeway of the past is going to go on, isn't she? Until she gets to that point. And she's going to go back, and guess who she's going to find?
Yeah.
Janeway of the past.
Janeway of the past, yep.
So there, it implies an infinite series of encounters like that feels impossible to me.
Mm.
It steps on my ability to suspend disbelief. I have to suspend disbelief harder.
Yeah, but that's not how temporal causality works.
Welcome back, Polly.
Okay.
He always has microphone issues when he first joins. But that's not how temporal causality works. When she makes changes to the past, she's eventually going to eliminate her future. Mm-hmm. So there's no future her to go back anymore.
Then how did the future her get back in the first place?
Because the first time through the timeline, that was the correct process. But by her going back, she changes that process. So
and then kills herself so that and then she dies.
Okay.
So that's the end of the loop.
I don't think I'm smart enough to understand.
Cause and effect. Watch the TNG episode, Cause and Effect.
Okay.
How do you get out of a temporal loop?
That is so hard to watch if you can't see and you've never seen it before.
It explains everything. If you watch that episode, which is a very enjoyable episode, I actually considered it one of my favorite TNGs. There's one that I like more, but yeah, go back and watch that because you'll enjoy it. That's really a highly enjoyable episode of TNG.
It is.
It steps way out of the bounds, but it's still a show about the crew. So, if you haven't seen it,
and I have to say, for as much as this episode does have some very serious moments in it, there are some really funny moments too, like really funny, like when B'Elanna's having one of her false labors and Tom runs out of the quarters and forgets B'Elanna. Or when she's like, or Doc's like, no, you're not actually having this baby. And she's like, what are you, what are you talking about, Doc?
Seeing a Klingon in labor is a rare treat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
they just took a regular human being and turned him up to 12, It's pretty funny.
And I bet you Roxanne Dawson had a lot of fun playing that scene.
But I mean, even with all that kind of stuff, just before, Janeway calls Paris to the bridge during the labor.
Yeah.
And the second labor scene when she's actually having the baby.
Yeah.
And the tender kiss.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
Yeah.
She's like, oh.
Or we've got the parts I don't like though are the frickin' 7 of 9 and Voyager, or 7 of 9 and Chakotay. Why Voyager's writers decided those two needed to be together, I do not know.
Yeah, I don't see how. It doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
Polly's back.
Like, all right. There we go.
Much better.
That's much better.
Yeah, right there. Sorry about that.
That's all good. But yeah, it's like freaking Chakotay and 7 of 9. Really?
Yeah, I know.
Like you had to take a really good episode and put that in there. Like, I mean, I know they started that storyline a couple of episodes before, but like when they had that Someone to Watch Over Me episode, I got really excited. I'm like, oh my god, are 7 of 9 and Doc gonna actually get together? And then they didn't, and I'm like, why? That would have worked.
Did anybody take notice that the girl that Doc marries might as well have been Jerry Ryan?
Yeah.
Tall, blonde, same hair, everything's about her. It's like almost exactly the same. It's like, I see where the doctor gets his libido from.
And that's a great and that's another great funny moment is at the reunion, and they walk up and his wife's like, hello, oh, come on, Joe, let's go, whatever. And Tom's like, Joe? It took you 30 years to come up with Joe? It was her grandfather or something like that. It was her father or whatever. Like, and then I'm like, really? You named yourself after her family member? That's not awkward at all. Like,
yeah.
It was just weird.
What I find funny is that the only person, like, you'll see, like, they put old age makeup on the actors, right?
Yeah.
And especially when it's TV, they get it done. It doesn't look great. It's just, old,
Mm-hmm.
They did, I mean, they all look older, but Jesus Christ, what's his name? The guy who plays Tom Paris, the actor.
Robert Duncan McNeil?
Thank you. Yeah. He pretty much looks like that right now. He's
in real life?
Yeah. Balding, pudgy, 2 chins. Yeah, he pretty much looks like that. Everybody else, they just kind of combed some gray into their hair and, gave him some jowls, whatever. But like what they did to Tom Paris, it's like, dude, that's a look into your future, man.
Did anybody notice that they gave Janeway a little pouch, a little lower abdominal pouch?
Yeah, that she keeps adjusting. I don't know if you noticed that, but
that's what caught my eye. I was like, "What is she doing?"
Yeah, well, it's kind of like she's like, "Yeah, I'm old and fat because now I'm hanging out with my younger self, and I really feel it."
Yeah.
But
I wanted to get
Hammer. Do you agree that those two were just like extra bitchy to each other? The two Janeways.
Well, Janeway is just basically extra bitchy herself. So when you have two of them, they're going to target each other.
Admiral Janeway was a special kind of like. Not necessarily. It's not necessarily battle hardened. It's just bitter.
Well, yeah, because she's seen a future that's terrible. So yeah, she's gonna be.
But and I don't
Okay, yeah. So she comes across as bitter and cynical. Captain Janeway kind of calls on that. I find it hard to believe I'd ever become as cynical as you.
Yeah.
But Admiral Janeway kind of pulls Captain Janeway's number correctly and says, because I remember how arrogant and self-righteous I used to be. That's why I didn't tell you about the Borg. And it's like, you're not wrong.
Good point.
You know,
Yeah.
because I mean, like, seriously, turning around. Why? Because you were lied to? You're so offended?
Yeah.
That's what I just don't understand it.
I think that was
stands out
I think
to me.
that was more of a I think that was a poor writing choice because sometimes I think they look at Janeway and they go, how would Picard have handled that? And Picard is famous for threatening admirals that he's going to toss them the fuck off his bridge. He's done it.
And has done it. Yeah, Admiral Pressman.
Yeah, he's done it. So I think that was kind of a really sloppy way of going, oh, look, Janeway can throw her weight around with an admiral too, even if it's herself who's time traveled back and is technically trying to help. You know, like I don't think it was well done. I think they could have done it differently and gotten the same message across.
Mm-hmm. I thought about it. It's like, how else would you do that? And it's, well, the purpose in that is to put them in the position where they're trying to destroy the hub, because Admiral Janeway has to duke it out with the Queen.
Yeah.
So it's like, somehow we got to get Admiral Janeway, on the Borg ship. Okay, so how are we going to manage that? And it's like, well, they have to come up with this other plan. The only way I can think to do that is if Admiral Janeway had spilled the beans and said what's in there is a subspace hub. And I'm like, would that have really been so bad? That she just says what's in there's a hub, and then Captain Janeway goes, you mean we can destroy it? No, you arrogant, self-righteous fool. We need to just use it. Like,
But then and then I love that little exchange. But what if we can have our cake and eat it too?
Yeah.
What if we do? And I love how Captain Janeway kind of like they each kind of get each other to be a little bit more cynical and a little bit more arrogant. Like it's a little bit of an exchange kind of thing. It's like Admiral Janeway kind of goes, "Yeah, you know what? I did succeed quite a lot when I was younger," and Captain Janeway was like, "Yeah, you know what? I can see what you mean because I was responsible for getting us stranded here by destroying the array." And Admiral Janeway even brings that up. She's like, "Well, you destroyed the array, like why would I let you do the same thing to the hub? Right. Like I've come back, I've freaking done all this stuff. There's no way I can go back. So you better not destroy that hub." Like that's pretty much what I took from that.
I don't think that that's not good. I don't think that the turnaround, Janeway goes on to the Borg ship and just seemingly spills the beans to the Queen and says, Admiral Janeway thinks she's going to destroy this, but the aperture, or the hub, but we're not going to let her, right? She's an arrogant bitch. I want you to drag her.
Yeah.
And Voyager through the hub. That's a nice trick. Because then you're thinking like, holy shit, Admiral Janeway really is old and bitter. She's collaborating with the Queen against her younger self.
Yeah.
So
that's what I thought the very first time I watched it. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. So it was a nice kind of like almost like heist aspect, that there was like a trick to it and a game to it, and they're working against the Queen. She damn well knew that the Queen was going to try and assimilate her. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, was a nice moment where it's I don't need to read your thoughts. Wham! Hits her with 2 injection tubules. Like,
and then I love Janeway's like, when she's like, "What have you done?" She's like, "Must be something you assimilated." It's like, oh damn, Janeway! Like, come on, man, that's awesome.
Did The end. I remember the first couple of times that I saw it originally that I didn't get what the hell was going on at the end. There was one sphere that was after them, and explosion happens, and then Voyager flies through, and I'm like, why that end business with the sphere? Like, just to have a little bit of extra tension at the very last moment?
Maybe, because it would have been really, like, because they almost got the shit blown out of them, right? Because Starfleet thought, oh shit, the Borg are coming.
Mm-hmm.
So they almost got they almost got a fleet worth of weaponry thrown at their ship until they were like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah,
Don't
I guess that's true. I didn't even think about it that way. They were worried about Starfleet. Well, the tension was supposed to be for the audience that Starfleet was going to open fire on them. Yeah. Do you think it? So the episode ends or begins rather with fireworks and Voyager coming in and flying by the Golden Gate Bridge, and that was the scene 10 years ago when Voyager came home, right? Do you feel a little bit robbed as a fan of Star Trek that you don't get to see the celebratory moment at the end?
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
I would have liked the scene I would have liked that whole scene to have happened, right? About 10 minutes earlier. And then we see, like you said, Voyager flying over the Golden Gate Bridge and the fireworks and and then like maybe even, have the credits roll and do some sort of cool shot where maybe the fireworks start making the credits. You know what I mean? Like something like that. Like
there isn't for me, there isn't a great last line. That doesn't need to be particularly amazing. It just needs to be of the right tone. Like Picard's is
let's see what
sky's the limit when they're playing poker.
Oh right, sky's the limit.
Yeah, right. Nothing wild and sky's the limit. And he'd stick, of course, double entendre for the betting and poker, but he means for our future. Like,
Yeah.
Right. And Kirk's great last line is second star on the right and straight on till morning. Fucking fantastic. Like it just because the voyage continues, it's great. I don't even remember what the last line is from Voyager.
Set a course for home.
Set a course for home. It's kind of like I don't know. It's just kind of all the ships flying into formation sort of ish. And it's, I don't know. It felt like it lacked a little something to me.
It felt flat. I agree.
Yeah. The end of TNG isn't a triumphant moment. It's just a high spirited moment, if you know what I mean. It's anticipatory. It doesn't feel like a somber ending.
No,
it's kind of like
and Voyager does. It's like set a course for home. But what's really interesting is that she almost sounds sad.
Yeah. There's no scan and pan of the crew, like the bridge crew, I mean, or any kind of thing. Some sort of like her putting her hand on Paris's shoulder and saying, I told you we'd make it, or something, or Chakotay, she kind of says it to him. Yeah.
Or Kim. What would have been really good.
Yeah.
Is if she had gone to Kim and gone like, I told you you'd see your mom again, or something like that.
Yeah. Or Chakotay, like maybe it wouldn't even be the captain saying it. It would be Chakotay saying to her, you got us home, Captain. Like something like that, And then her, like, with this moment of realization going, holy shit, you're right, I did. What do you know?
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's not I don't really have any major complaints about this episode, considering the way that like Enterprise ends, for example. This is
no spoilers.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, it's not particularly well liked. It's not awful, but yeah.
Well, I want to say some good things about this episode because I usually have a lot of bad things to say about two-parters, but one is a technical thing and the other one's a writing thing. The first thing, I'm going to go over these quickly. The technical thing is this is probably the best presentation of dual characters If you go back and look at the original Picard, where he's walking down the hallway and they're a good 9 feet apart from each other because they don't want the video to overlap and get all screwed up. Here they have her walking around each other all the time. And it's very seamless. They don't ever end up looking in the wrong place. They always seem to be actually looking at each other, even though they're not there.
Right.
That whole effect of there's two people in the same room at the same time that are not two people. It's actually only one person. Yeah. That effect was done very, very well here. Very well. So that's one thing. The second thing was I complained almost through the entire series about how two-parters shouldn't be two-parters. That they should be one-parters or they shouldn't even exist at all. They're such a bad story. This is an episode that had plenty of story to tell and actually was too much story to tell in a two-parter. And I agree that there's some pacing issues. I think the ending should have come earlier and there should have been some kind of after the orgasm kind of scene that you get after.
Yeah. There is no denouement. There's simply a conclusion.
I would have really liked 3 episodes. I would have liked them taking. Enough for 3. You don't think you think they could have built up. I would have liked to have seen a bit of distrust, a bit more distrust between Admiral and Captain Janeway.
There was 10% more than this show should have had. There wasn't 90% more. There was only about 10% more. I don't think you could have made 3 out of this without me complaining about the same thing I complained about before, is that you're stretching everything out for no reason. So there was 10% more than, and I think that 10% was the post-coitus scene where everyone's snuggling and stuff like that kind of stuff. You don't see that here, and it really, really needed it.
It did. Because it had it in TNG, because that whole poker scene was...
Even before the poker scene, when it's over and they're standing in the hallway with Worf and Deanna Troi, and he says, "What day is it?" And he says, "No, everything's okay," and he says, goes back to bed.
Yeah.
It started there.
And you get conclusions where resolutions of things that are started, and they don't really have anything that's left open until it's resolved. Like you get Paris's baby, but that's
But you don't even get to see Paris, or do you?
No.
Yeah, you don't even get to see her. You hear her over the comm.
But you don't get to see them together, like have that moment. And there's sort of like a Starfleet-esque thing because they all have duty, but yet, so okay. But the moment between Riker and Worf at the poker table in TNG, Riker looks and goes, and to make sure that some things never happen, and Worf nods and goes, agreed.
Yes.
Like, we're not going to beef out like we did in the future.
We're not going to, we're not going to beef out over a woman. This is not going to happen.
There's no reason to have it happen because we know how it could turn out. Like that was, again, things are being resolved and sewed up nicely and so forth. And Picard, especially with that, I should have done this a long time ago. Anyone who's a TNG fan references that. It's like, you were always welcome, Captain. And it's, yay, they're more of a crew now. Like, it's corny, but God damn it works.
It does, It really does.
And notice that's kind of the things that we started throwing around as ideas. We just want a crew moment between them of, I told you we'd make it, or you get to see your mom, or you did get us home, Captain. Some kind of crew moment. Like the whole point is that these people are closer than any crew's ever been. And then you leave the end kind of, oh shit, the credits are rolling. Fuck, it's already over.
Yeah.
You don't get it.
That was fun. Let's go home now.
If you think about it, from the moment of extreme high tension to the point when the credits roll is like, what? 20 seconds?
Yeah.
Yo!
There were opportunities, even at the very end, there were opportunities to get that kind of personal, because Tom Paris's baby is just born, and she says, "Lieutenant Paris, maybe you should go down to sickbay. I believe there's somebody there who wants to meet you." Well, that's a great kind of extra line speech. What should have been happening is she should have looked at Tom, and Tom should have looked at her, and she should have just go.
Yeah.
That would have been perfect. Because he wants to go. She knows he wants to go. She doesn't need to deliver 3 sentences to tell him to go. She just looked at him and cocked her head a little bit. Like that, you can't see what I'm doing, but you get what I'm talking about. But some of the writing in that episode was a little goofy like that.
I thought there was some good writing in there though. I like the line, "It's you who underestimated us."
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
Because that's a theme that happens throughout Voyager. Voyager is the little ship that could. Like like the Borg came to Wolf 359 and just tore up the fleet in TNG.
Right.
And Voyager all by itself managed to basically help the Borg defeat a superior species, then evade the Borg, steal from the Borg, adopt from the Borg, and not die.
Well, the only thing was a caveat to that is when Kess pushed them through Borg territory. So they didn't spend 3.5 years with the Borg everywhere. They got pushed beyond that. Not that they didn't run into the Borg again, but they weren't in the main area where the Borg is. So they got a little bit of a reprieve there.
That's true. That's very true. But it's still really cool because to see the fact that this little ship was able to stand up against the Borg for so long.
That is a kind of a battleship, even though its size is small.
Yeah.
That is kind of a battleship
That's
that was
true.
designed to defeat the Borg. I mean, that's the reason
true.
behind it. So it probably stood better
just
chance.
like the Defiant, right? It was built specifically to go to war if the Borg came back.
Right.
It just happened to be sent on this supposedly 3-week-long mission to the Badlands.
Yeah.
Another line that I liked was, "You wish to ensure the well-being of your collective."
Yeah.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just like the interaction between the Borg Queen and Janeway.
Another good thing is they actually got Alice Creech back to play the part.
Yes, they did. It was a good Borg Queen.
That was cool. And probably paid her a boatload, but
but
that was very cool. They had the original Borg Queen as we've known and hated her. They had her back. All right.
Proper Borg Queen.
Yeah.
I'm watching it and I'm like, special guest star Alice Creech. I'm like, yes.
So, thoughts overall on Voyager as a series?
Oh boy.
Since we're talking about the series finale, and
it was the last good series about Star Trek.
And we've torn apart all the two-parters.
It was the last good Trek show on TV.
Then you're gonna love the fact that we're going into Deep Space Nine.
Well, what do you mean it was the last good one that was on TV?
Deep Space Nine started before Voyager.
That's true.
Yeah, Enterprise. Hello. It's fine. It's a fine series.
It's a fine series, but
are you serious? Do you really like Enterprise?
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, I do too. But the problem I have with Enterprise is 4 seasons.
I'm sorry, you cut out there for me a little bit?
4 seasons.
Yeah, 4 seasons. Yeah. Well, yeah.
That makes it less to everything else, in my opinion. You have to run 7 or something was wrong. So,
which you don't like TOS, is what you're saying?
Yeah. TOS should have gone a lot longer. There's no doubt about it.
And you can tell that they were expecting it to because of Turnabout Intruder.
Do you know TOS was going to be canceled after the 2nd season?
Yeah, it was. The fans started a letter writing campaign that got in the 3rd season.
I was one of those fans that wrote the letter.
You're that old, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Thanks for noticing.
But yeah, what did you guys think overall of the series with the most 2-parters? I think it's the series with the most 2-parters.
I think you're right.
Unless it depends on how you look at it in terms of how much from the last episode continues on into the next episode, if you know what I mean. Like not really like split, discrete, episodic episodes.
Yeah.
The longest run in Trek period would either be the last 9 episodes of DS9.
Yeah.
Which are all one long continuous story.
Right.
Like the of the Dominion War.
Yeah.
Or if you want to, you can look at season 3 with the of Enterprise with the Xindi as one big long story arc. But they do have episodic ones that sort of like stick in there. The whole thing is the Expanse, their journey, you know, in the Expanse. But it's not really a continuous story in that sense. But of true two-parters, like that are really, really true-parter, intended as two-parters, yeah, Voyager is the one with the most. Which is odd because they tend to be bigger and they tend to be higher budget, like more expensive to produce because they're doing more stuff in them. And yet Robert Beltran's consistent complaint was Voyager had a lower budget. It was like the redheaded stepchild of the Star Trek property that they didn't give a damn about. And it was, but Beltran was a born complainer, that guy. Like it,
that doesn't surprise me. He sounds whiny.
He's famous for it, of being like, my character's written terribly. He's not wrong. It was the kind of forgotten series that people didn't like as much as the others. He's not wrong. Like, it's just, you're saying it though, Robert. Don't say it.
Yeah.
Well, he ended up being wrong in the long run because it is no longer the most disliked of all Star Trek. People don't even consider STD Star Trek. They dislike it so much. It's like, oh, fuck that. It's not even canon.
I was actually on Star Trek put out a tweet the other day, Star Trek's Twitter, that said, what episode would you recommend to fans to get started? And somebody actually put episode 1 of Star Trek Discovery. And I went, next. Just
it
like, and they meant like unironically, they actually said like just no.
Some of the Star Trek podcasts that I listen to, the ongoing ones, people have kind of made comments over time that like sort of stuck out with me. One of them being, you can't be an old fuddy-duddy who refuses to learn new ways or experience new things. And the argument that he was making was in and around the JJ Universe films.
Right.
Because STD hadn't come out at the time.
Right.
And it's like, it's Star Trek reimagined as feature action films. So what's your problem? Like, it's like, there were people that when they were watching TNG were saying, this isn't TOS, this sucks. Yeah. And same thing with people say that about DS9, looking at you, Hammer. People say that about Voyager because they just don't like it because of the captain and the way the crew and the way they're all, whatever. And then Enterprise, I think, of all of the proper tracks, gets that more than anything. And that really stuck with me because it's like, I thought, yeah, that is what, it's not Star Trek, people say about the JJ Universe films, the Kelvin timeline stuff. And it's not cerebral Trek. It's Trek reimagined as a feature action film. That's a great way to describe it because that's exactly what's going on.
Yes.
The main point is a little bit of adventure and a lot of action. And so that's why everyone's running everywhere all the time. Like, it's
and shouting.
Yeah. Shouting and everything is happening. Explosions and it's
like the warp core. Do it.
Right? Everything has to be said 5 times. Run. Do it. Now.
I got after the first do it. You don't need 3 do it.
Yeah. And it's, if you look at the moments in the Star Trek series when the tension is the highest, when they're in their actual action point, it is kind of like that. It's just extended over fucking 2 hours, There's
a large part of the culture of Star Trek fans that are a lot like me in the sense that when I order pizza, of a certain size almost every time, and it's always half beef. That's what I get. Light cheese, half beef. Light cheese, half beef. And when I go to Domino's, I get light cheese and half beef. And when I go to Januzzi's or Pizza Hut or, name your chain, I get, medium or large, depending on how hungry you are, how many people I'm feeding, but it's always light cheese, half beef every time because I like, and I'm sure I'd like ham and pineapple. I'm sure I'd like veggie or meat lovers. I'm sure I like that. But you know what I want? Light cheese, half beef. And And if you get too far away from that, if you start feeding me stuff that I'm not familiar with, or that you think I'm going to like better, I'm going to end up resenting you. No, I want light cheese, half beef. Stop putting pineapple on my pizza. I'm not interested in that.
And my problem with the Calvin timeline is the Star Trek does have the tendency to, when people go, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
They go, time travel. And that's kind of what I don't like about the Calvin universe, is because everyone went, well, wait a minute. And it was like, it's okay, time travel. It was like, but no, it's not quite okay. There were some good parts about Star Trek 2009. Into Darkness was like, it was all right. I could have done without Benedict Cumberbatch as Khan, but
Everyone could have.
it was okay. But when I hear Zachary Quinto, I do not hear Spock.
No, neither do I.
I do not.
I think it was a casting mistake, but when it's like I can kind of accept it, like, especially because they're feature films and the realities of making a film right now. Like, if it's not appealing to the Chinese audience, meaning lots of explosions and but especially no culturally specific stories, like a heavy-duty dramatic detective film, no matter how good it is, how masterfully it's acted, is not going to translate to other cultures well, because it's very talky and it's full of cultural references. But explosions are universal, action is universal, and that's why big ticket movies like that all are that way, to make them as universal as possible. So lowest common denominator, titties, ass, explosions, car chases, fights. Yeah. Those, you don't require a culture context to get what's going on there.
No.
Most of the time. So I kind of forgive it on that basis. Enterprise, it took me a while to warm up to it, to get it, to kind of see like, what is it you're doing here? And I get it, and it does fit inside the Star Trek universe. STD does not. And that's why I kind of reject it. I mean, back to Voyager, people like, they don't like it. Well, one of the podcasts, the guy says, I think what people need to come to terms with Voyager is that it comes across like a show written for children. And that's not a bad thing. It's just, it is the most... They're a get-along gang in space.
Yeah.
And yes, they have their harrowing moments, and 8472 is actually creepy and weird, and there's some freaky stuff that goes on, but mostly it's really fucking friendly. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
I found myself kind of falling in love with the characters.
Yes.
These are not paper characters. These are people you start to care about.
Mm-hmm.
Except Chakotay.
Yeah, except Chakotay, who, as far as I can tell, is a cigar store Indian.
And you know what's really nice about the way Voyager pays homage to people for appreciating that love of the characters is their introduction of Barclay to the story, and his hiding away on the holodeck on the Pathfinder project on Voyager.
Yeah, and sleeping in his holographic quarters. It really, I agree.
Barclay becomes us at this point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to be like, well, what if we could live on Voyager?
He did a good stammer, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the same actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it really sells the idea of wanting to be on Voyager as the audience. I agree completely. That's a really good way to say it.
Yeah.
We need to have holographic houses in the future.
Yes.
So that, when the wife leaves, everything becomes a man cave. Oh, she's almost home. Put everything back to the way it was.
And as long as you don't have power outages, why ever build anything?
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, God help you when you have a power outage and you're on the third floor asleep, right?
Well, yeah, that's a whole set of problems in its own right.
But I mean, if you accept it on that basis, that it is the most, quote, childish, aimed at a younger audience. There's a better way to say it. Because I don't know if they intended it that way, but my God, that's the way it comes across. And there's nothing even bad with that. You just kind of have to accept it on that basis. It's like, don't go into Looney Tunes expecting high drama.
Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's an
So,
awful lot of discrimination against Wile E. Coyote.
So overall, yeah, I dig Voyager. Overall, I
yeah.
really don't get the. It's one thing to say it's my least favorite series, which, you know what? Overall, I think it is. Of the proper Trek series, it's my least favorite. But I'm not
Do
going
you
to sit here
consider
and
DS9 a proper Trek series?
all the
Oh,
way,
yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's just
I
from
like DS9 and Voyager. I'm finding I like both of them a lot.
and people get confused on it, right? It's like, well, yeah, but it's like they're doing everything not Trek, and it's like, no, you didn't see what they were doing there. It's frontier Trek.
Right. Exactly.
It's these, straight laced officers out on the frontier where ain't nobody like that but them. Go, and on that basis, the story happens, and it's, hey, enjoy it for that, and it's awesome.
Voyager is unique in the way it's written too, because if I just go through all the TNG episodes and just rate them and then average them afterwards, you get a lot of 8s. If you get Voyager, you get a lot of 6s.
Yeah.
But you also get a couple of really good 10s and a really bad 2s. I think the mix of how the rating ended up in that series overall wasn't as good as TNG. But it had some really great points in it, and it had some really, really sour notes, a little bit more of extremes on both ends than almost every other series did.
I would agree.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
You get episodes like freaking that stupid Vision Quest episode where Chakotay gets captured by the Kazon
Kuchimoya.
And then you get episodes like Extreme Risk and Nothing Human.
Yeah.
What's the one with the floating germs that are the size of a basketball?
Macrocosm.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Turns into goo at the end.
You didn't think that was creepy? I thought that was a creepy idea.
Freaking awesome.
Full-size germs coming after you.
What got me about that was the visuals were really horrible.
Blind. You came up lucky on that one. Your imagination is a lot better than.
If you watch that blindfolded, it is a much better episode than if you watch it and go, "Oh, that's crappy visuals."
I'll give him this: the stabby noise that it makes when it's trying to like.
And how angry the buzzing is.
Yeah, like it goes, and then it would, when it's stabbing, like it works.
Yeah.
Like
a professional boxer when he's trying to hit you with his fist.
That's a good point.
But the one where she ends up being the goo monster at the end and mates with Paris.
What's the one where he's Threshold.
Threshold.
Yeah.
There are really good episodes and there are really bad ones.
You know what? That cements your position on the extremes nature of Voyager, because Threshold, of all tracks, all of them added together, minus STD because it doesn't count, that is literally the worst episode in Star Trek history. In my mind,
that's the microcosm.
Am I the only one that likes that episode
of Threshold,
except for the end?
But that's just it. See, I have this different feeling or way of gauging what is bad. It's when the worst episodes are the middling ones that go nowhere and what the fuck. There's, the disaster episodes, you could watch them for so bad it's good. And that is part of the reason I love the first season of TNG so much. It's just cornball TOS heaven as far as I'm concerned. It's so corny. I love it. But
Threshold is the microcosm though when you look at it, because it starts off so great and it ends so bad.
That nothing starts off as awesome as Threshold and ends as bad as Threshold. Nothing. Like just the notion of infinite velocity is a very cool idea.
It is.
And the technical way that they're defeating it, and like, well, wait a minute, why hasn't Starfleet been able to do this before? Why are you idiots out in the middle of nowhere? Because they found this unique kind of dilithium that can and it's fading fast, so we got to use it now or never, and it blah blah, like all this stuff. It's great. And what happens? Oh, you de-evolve into a lizard. What? It's just starts off so awesome and so terribly. You've earned the spot as the worst episode ever because I don't know. You turn into a lizard, and then so does the captain, and then they have kids, but then they're insta retconned back to normal, and end of story.
And they leave the kids there.
Yeah, it's just retarded.
What happens do they die? Do they breed together and become incest lizard humans?
Yeah.
What the fuck happens to the children?
And people have I've noticed people say that's unrealistic. I don't care about realistic or unrealistic tech. I mean, I like Star Trek because it tends more towards the realistic than the fantastic. Okay, great. But when it's, warp drive and the how close they imagine everything is in space when it's actually much further apart than that and all of these various things, I'm fine with all that. It doesn't bother me. The when it comes to infinite velocity, would it really work that way? Well, no, probably not, but whatever, I'm fine with it. Like it's imagination land. But I can't accept I can even accept the dinosaur one. That makes no sense for anyone who knows anything about Darwinism.
The dinosaurs evolved to do space travel before the meteor came.
Right. Like, it's when they're on the holodeck, that is the most disastrous, hard to deal with thing if you know anything about Darwinism and aren't willing to set it aside just for the sake of the show. When she goes, if this animal continued to evolve over the next several million years, what would it look like? And it shows her, and it's like, wait, whoa, what? That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Of course, it evolved to look like a humanoid, but then again, that's part of the Star Trek conceit. The galaxy's populated with humanoid-like beings.
Yes.
Move on.
Voyager didn't have a lot of 10s. Now that I sit here and think about it, if you compare it to TNG had a lot of 10s, but Voyager didn't really have that many. Had a couple of 9s.
What's your favorite TNG episode, Hammer?
Ooh,
that one.
Well, that's really hard because I have like 5 or 6. So,
what are 3 that you really love?
Remember Me, The Nth Degree, and Cause and Effect.
Because I'm gonna make sure that I rewatch those.
Taking notes.
What do you mind? I mean,
no, not at all.
You know what I find interesting about that?
But ask Polly and Blind what theirs are, because I guarantee they're not picking the same 3.
No, I'm not.
Remember Me, Cause and Effect,
The Nth Degree.
The Nth Degree.
Those are all, by the way, especially Remember Me. No one ever talks about that episode. That episode is fantastic.
If someone put a gun to my head and said, name one, it would probably be Remember Me.
Yeah, but
all right, Polly, your turn.
I'd have to look.
No, you don't. You have a memory. You know all these shows. That's bullshit. I'm calling you out.
Name some plot points, and Hammer will give you the title.
No. I can remember the titles. That's not the issue.
She knows the titles better than me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I would. And by the way, favorite or best? We're talking about favorite.
Right? Just one that you like personally the best.
Oh, Yesterday's Enterprise. You can't go wrong with it. It's just. Yeah, I know it's kind of a bulk answer because a lot of people say that, but they're not wrong.
No, Best of Both Worlds is the bulk answer, but you're right. A lot of people would pick Yesterday's Enterprise. Great show. That would be another 10 for me.
Is in terms of
what's another one from you, Polly?
Oh, The High Ground is a just outstanding episode as far as I'm concerned, because it really puts morality on the through the car wash, and it's great.
It is different, Cochran.
What's your third pick of a 10 out of TNG?
Let me think for a second.
Get ready, Blind. You're next.
Let him think. When we move to Blind, get her 3.
Yeah.
All right.
Mine are gonna shock you.
Hurry.
I'm too old to be shocked.
So, Coming of Age.
Really?
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
The what is it? Tapestry.
Oh, yeah. Great call.
Great
and
I can see it.
Let's see. Offspring. The Offspring.
Oh.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I can't watch that episode without crying, but it's still a great episode.
I love Offspring, and that is one that I can remember, and I also like that one very, very much.
Yeah. I have to make my call. I was going to say Data's Day, which is a beloved episode, but honestly,
it's all right.
It can't beat the Drumhead.
No, it can't.
Good. Yeah. Measure of Man also kind of sticks along.
Oh yeah, fuck Measure of a Man. I forgot about that.
Measure of a Man's great.
I'm gonna put it
Picard puts down. Pretty good.
See, what I'm going to do is I'm going to line these up, except that, Offspring I know well enough, so I'm going to eliminate that one, but I'm going to line these up in order and then just watch them in order.
All right, throw
just
Cupid
as a
in there
treat
as
for
well.
myself. Huh?
Throw Cupid in there as well.
Cupid.
There's a lot of funny stuff in there. Worf, I object. I am not a merry man.
Sir, I protest. I am not a merry man.
Is there? I'm curious about this. The TNG has a great Halloween Spookum episode. Oh fuck, I forget the name of the episode. Schisms, I think.
Schisms, yeah.
Or is it Night Terrors?
Which one? What's
where the species from a subspace interstitial manifold is yeah. I can remember where this place in the universe they
Felis
occupy.
catus is your taxonomic nomenclature endothermic quadruped.
Carnivorous by nature.
What was the one's fears circles? Is that the phrase?
One moon circle.
One moon. That's what it was.
Well, I mean, I think
eyes in the dark.
That is that TNG episode is a better spookum than.
Don't watch that if you can't sleep and it's fucking 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wait, what's that? Which one?
Night Terrors. Night Terrors is fucked up.
It is, but Schisms, the clicking noise, oh my god!
I've been in this room.
Yeah,
I've been having some trouble sleeping lately, so I need some good late night viewing.
Yeah, don't watch that late at night.
Don't watch. So seriously, because of my insomnia, Night Terrors actually really gets me.
Really, yeah.
And I'm not going to tell you why.
Do you have descriptive video for it?
Nope.
That whole holodeck scene is really, really good. Really well written.
Oh, and Schisms?
When they have everybody around, she says, no, it wasn't wooden, it was metal. And one that was a little higher than the other. And there was an arm, and there were scissors. How they built that whole thing.
That's really
And then when
cool.
we were done, and you actually got to see where they ended up, it was nothing like what they had gone through in the holodeck.
Yeah, but close enough to freak the hell out of them.
It was that there were obviously wrong things. That it wasn't tilted, it was flat, and it wasn't metal, it was black ceramic. I mean, all the things that they said, oh, it was this, oh, it was that, when you look at what Riker is actually laying on, it ain't nothing like any of that. It made me laugh.
Ooh, Seal 77 in chat says The Inner Light. That is a good episode.
That is almost like Inner Light. That is almost
where
like
he learns to play a flute. Is that the one?
Yeah,
that's a heart-wrenching one.
It's more of like a standalone Picard one-off than it is an episode of Trek. Like the other characters are really irrelevant to the story, but that's fine.
But it really hit home. It's got a really personal.
That
tune that he plays is.
Well, what I can't listen. There's kind of a follow-up episode, the one where he falls in love with the lieutenant commander.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Stellar Cartography?
Yep.
Yeah. And they're playing, like, he shows her the tune and she starts playing on the piano. And he's playing on that is just so freaking, I don't know if it's because of my appreciation for music or what, but it's just so freaking beautiful that it just makes you tear up.
Yeah.
See, what I was trying to think of is for Voyager, there's definitely a Halloween Spookum episode for me, and that's Scientific Method.
Oh,
that episode is just.
That's a Voyager episode. That's the one where, we discover that Voyager has been playing host to some invisible aliens that are doing experiments on them.
Yeah, and that are performing creepy fucking weirdo experiments on them. It's just holy shit.
Killing people, making them old, turning people's blood into polymer.
Yeah, and then Janeway just had various spikes and stuff sticking into her head that were invisible, just to torture her, just to raise her anxiety level to see how much she could take.
Levels,
Did she brush her hair in the morning?
Ha 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 ha.
But no, it's just invisible.
It's out of phase. No, it's out of phase. Like it's invisible in the sense it's out of phase slightly.
All right, that's cool. I got that.
It's a great
I
line.
thought you were making a bad joke. Sorry.
And that scene between her and Tuvok where she's like, don't 4 department heads or 8 department heads report to you every day? Yeah. Well, whip them into shape, would you? Tuvok's like, shall I have them flogged too?
I love Tim Russ's delivery sometimes. He's just so freaking awesome at it.
See, there's the thing. Tim Russ is just such a great example that an actor pulled off what he did, because you can say, listen, Zachary Quinto, it's not that you're not Leonard Nimoy and everyone's just married to Leonard Nimoy as a Vulcan. Because look what Mark Leonard did as Spock's father. He pulls off a torrent of emotions barely held under the surface.
Yeah.
Tim Russ does it as well. Yeah. You, sir, just come across like a cold prick.
Yeah.
Fair point.
You know, like, study what these guys have done, because they managed to do it extremely well, and you fail, sir.
But isn't that what a true Vulcan is? Is a cold prick. The only reason that Leonard Nimoy had any cold prick is because he's part human, and Mark Leonard marries 2 humans, so he's very engrossed in the human part of life. So that's maybe why they have more of a feeling to them than a typical Vulcan would have. I think Tuvok plays Vulcans as Vulcans really are, without the influence of humans.
But even you can see Tuvok, there's really good episodes that show that Tuvok is an emotional being.
Well, they are.
Innocence is one of them.
They're all emotional. The Vulcans are all emotional.
But that he's willing to, like, that he can that he can, show them in a Vulcan-esque way. Like, he was, when he's dealing with those kids that were actually old.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that episode.
And he ends up singing them like a lullaby or something like that.
I think he comes to the decision that that's how it has to be done.
Yeah.
Logic.
But I mean, he's logically doing that, but he knows that at some point he has to do something that will seem emotional to them.
Well, it's the same thing with Spock when he ejects the plasma in Galileo 7. He says, I thought it was time for an emotional outburst. He came to it as a logical decision. Well, nothing else has worked. Let's try an emotional outburst and see if that works. And I think that's how Tuvok is. He's very, very much the analytical person. But, it looks like I'll have to be like a friendly guy here because that works best. So let me go ahead and tap into the emotions I need just to get past this thing. And I'll go back to being what I really am. I think he plays Vulcans well. I think Vulcans are very much like Tuvok. If you went to Vulcan and met 20 Vulcans, they'd all be like Tuvok.
Yeah, probably. Well, we've done Voyager. We've done Voyager. So we're moving on to Deep Space Nine next week. And can someone remind me what the first, other than Emissary, what the first 2-parter is? Isn't that all the way up in season 2 or 3? I want to say it starts with Improbable Cause, but I could be wrong.
You know what? That's not technically a 2-parter. It's not called that, but it totally is. Yeah, Improbable Cause, and
then the next
The Die
one
Is Cast.
The Die Is Cast, yeah. Because they do have that that little last time on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Yes, they do. They don't have, and because I noticed that, because I was like, whoa, those don't have the same title, but they have they're definitely a 2-parter because they've got the computer voice telling us previously on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. So this is clearly a second part to the story.
Oh, actually, I just looked. In season 2, there's the Maquis, part 1 and 2.
Oh, the Maquis. Okay, so that's the first one, I guess, that because we've already in our pilot stuff we covered the Emissary.
What is what is the Bajoran revolutionary hero's name?
Oh,
that they do recover from the prison planet and bring him back and then give him the title, and he ends up fighting the fight with them.
I know exactly who you're talking about, but I can't remember his name.
Lee Nollis.
Lee Nollis, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be of much help to you guys at all.
We'll warm you up to DS9 yet, Hammer.
You're going to have to start pointing out episodes for me to watch, like Skep did for you guys, because I'll be like, don't like anything I've seen.
Gladly. Like,
and I'll tell you right now, if you point me to a Ferengi episode, I'm not talking to you ever again.
Oh, that's fine. Like, if you can watch In the Pale Moonlight and not love it, oh, sir.
The Visitor.
You've got problems, my friend.
It
always comes up as the great game, and yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to get going over to the
Minions.
The Minions.
Yes, everyone. If you guys are looking for something to watch at 11:30, head over to the Minions of the Zoo. It'll be a good time. Is Reject hosting tonight, or are you hosting?
Chaos is running.
Chaos
is running. Okay.
Yeah.
So that
SDA is going to be on.
Oh, cool. That should be fun.
SDA, Some Dumb American.
Oh yeah, I know who she is. Yeah.
Yeah. Red hair.
So if you guys want to go watch that, go head over to the Minions of the Zoo channel. And please come back tomorrow night for the Blind and the Special at 10 p.m. Eastern. And remember the coffee stream on Monday at noon p.m. Eastern. I hope you all enjoyed it tonight, and be back next Saturday for Deep Space Nine's The Maquis. That should be interesting. And it's actually going to be an episode that I have to rewatch because I've done most of the Voyager ones from memory.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Wow. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Episodes you haven't seen in a long time. That I love the lesser watched Star Trek episodes.
Yeah.
That, I've only seen them 7 or 8 times. So
it's like I am with TOS. Yeah.
Yeah.
The ones where I can't anticipate every single word of dialogue.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for coming, and we'll see everyone tomorrow for the Blind and the Special. Have a great night, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone. Thanks, chat.